Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Dave's Faves. And today I want to talk to you about the Bartók string quartets. Now, I have hesitated. Oh, have I hesitated in talking about the Bartók string quartets? And there are a few reasons for it. The first of which is that every single string quartet worth its salt records the Bartók string quartets. And most of them do it quite well. They're like the late Beethoven quartets. They're works of such seriousness and technical sophistication and virtuosity and expressive depth that nobody undertakes them unless they're going to do them well. I mean, that's really how it boils down. So, when looking at all the piles of sets of these things that I have, I really feel a little silly trying to go through a big stack of them, talking about really minute interpretive differences that are so much just a question of personal taste. And there's none of them that are bad, and there's none of them that don't do the music justice at some really pretty profound level. So I figured I'd be better off just picking the one that I like the best and telling you what it is and why it is. And that one is the Keller Quartet on Erato. And I mean, the Juilliard's fabulous, and there's just so many really good ones. But I really like this. The Keller Quartet was trained by Sándor Vég, who made his own marvelous recordings of the Bartók quartets, and who knew Bartók personally, and but of course, so many people knew Bartók personally because he was around, and they lived to make recordings of his quartets. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And I wouldn't say that these guys sound like the Vég quartet. They don't have that same, somewhat casual approach to intonation, and perhaps not quite the same, idiomatic touch when it comes to some of the folky things, maybe, but they are technically fabulous and expressively on point with every single one of these pieces. I mean, really marvelous, especially those middle ones. The other reason I didn't talk about the Bartók quartets initially is that I'm not a huge fan of the first two. I'm really not. They're very chromatic, practically atonal. And the reason I don't like them so much isn't because they're practically atonal. It's because they're not atonal enough. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I think if you're going to be slushy and chromatic, you might as well just go all the way and adopt an entirely new system of writing, like, 12-tone serial music or something, some other system entirely, so that you don't keep defeating the expectations that those, fleeting tonal elements arouse, in the listener. You keep thinking it's going to go somewhere and do something, and then it doesn't. It just becomes the attack of the sludge creatures. And I'm not saying that it's bad music. It isn't. It's extremely serious music, as I've said before. And it's very well done. There's no question about that. But by the time Bartók got to the third quartet, and he started feeling rhythm again, like he's got rhythm, rhythm. And some of that folk stuff and that wonderful crunching dissonance that he got from the folk stuff, then I think he was really cruising. And so I love 3, 4, and 5. In fact, I took a wonderful music appreciation course when I was in college, in which the professor played us the recordings that Bartók made of actual Hungarian and Romanian, folk musicians. And it was a fascinating study because we were listening to the fourth quartet. And you know how the fourth quartet goes. I mean, especially the finale, right? It's also, this guy that Bartók recorded was playing the violin and singing. And let me tell you, the fourth quartet was Mozart next to what this guy sounded like. Those who think that Bartók quartets were taking folk music and modernizing it, they don't know what the real thing sounded like. I mean, it was quarter tones and eighth tones and screaming and shrieking and rhythmically contorted. And oh my goodness, you realize that what Bartók actually did was regularize and systematize what he heard. He did not in any way rise to the level of sheer raucous tonal mayhem of the stuff that he actually recorded. It's fascinating. It really is. But those are amazing pieces. And the sixth is sort of a synthesis of the two styles. It begins with a slow movement. It begins with an introduction, pardon me, in one part. And then there's a regular movement. And then there's an introduction in two parts. It's the same thing, but now it's in two parts. And then there's the next movement. Then it's in three parts. And then there's the last movement. And then, the third movement. And then the last movement is a slow movement because it's marked mesto, sadly, in which all four players participate in that initial melody. It's kind of gimmicky, yes, but it's a fantastically worked out piece. And these performances are as perfect as they come. It's that simple. I wouldn't criticize anyone who liked other versions, and there's so many other versions to like, as I said, but this one really sort of struck me as kind of special in getting an optimal interpretation of every single work, and being beautifully recorded and played up to the very, very highest standards. I mean, the Keller Quartet is a fantastic group, and they're Hungarian, so they've got the Hungarian thing down. When I said they might not have been as idiomatic as the Vague Quartet, I didn't mean that it was because they're not Hungarian. They are. Or because you have to be Hungarian. You don't. None of that applies. You just need to play the pieces like the great works that they are. And I'm very, very happy with this set. It's the one I reach for when I want to hear the Bartok quartets. And I play them rarely. I really do. I think that they're tough works that require serious attention and effort. And I have to be up to it in order to listen to them. They're not background music, and they're not pieces that I take for granted. There's some music for me that's just like that, and this is that type. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.